In the year 2357, Earth's intergalactic relations had expanded far beyond the borders of our wildest imaginations. Humanity, once confined to the limits of Earth's atmosphere, now found itself trading, communicating, and sometimes battling with beings from across the stars. Among these various alien species, there was one that fascinated humanity more than any other: the Lashari. The Lashari were a species that had evolved on a distant planet in the Andromeda Galaxy. They were known for their advanced intellect and their ability to manipulate gravity. However, what truly set them apart was the fact that their species had evolved without legs. They had evolved to float, using gravitational fields to move about, and had no need for traditional limbs. Zaral was one of the few Lashari ambassadors sent to Earth to represent her people. She had come as part of a cultural exchange program meant to foster better relationships between the Lashari and humanity. The moment she arrived, she was both revered and feared. Her floating form was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. She hovered gracefully, her body surrounded by an invisible field that allowed her to glide effortlessly over the ground. Her face, serene and distant, was a study of emotionless precision. The lack of legs, however, made her stand out even more in a world where legs were a sign of mobility and human connection. Then there was Alex. A human in his late 20s, Alex had never quite fit in with others. He was the kind of person who was always at the edges of the crowd, observing but never fully participating. His social skills were lacking, and as a result, he had no real friends. He had grown used to being alone, seeking solace in books, video games, and the occasional chat with a virtual assistant. But despite the solitude, he longed for something more, something real, something genuine. It was during a routine visit to one of the many cultural exchange hubs where Earth's visitors from distant worlds met with humans that Alex and Zaral's paths crossed. Alex had been assigned as a guide for the Lashari delegates, although it was more out of necessity than any particular skill or enthusiasm. He was quiet, shy, and had little to no experience dealing with alien cultures, but he had been chosen because he had a certain understanding of technology, an understanding that could help him navigate the cultural nuances of the visit. Zaral, with her silent, gravity-defying presence, was the last to arrive. Alex's heart skipped a beat when he saw her glide into the room. She was even more beautiful than the holograms and reports had made her out to be. There was something otherworldly about her, something that made him feel insignificant in comparison. As the other delegates and humans mingled, Alex found himself drawn to her. He was fascinated by her, and for the first time in a long time, he felt the stirrings of curiosity and wonder. Despite his lack of confidence, Alex approached Zaral. He knew the social dynamics of humans and Lashari were complex, but he wasn't expecting her to be so different. She didn't have the same mannerisms as humans. She didn't make eye contact the way people did. Instead, her focus was directed inward, as though she were always processing and calculating. "Zaral," Alex asked, his voice hesitating slightly. She turned her head toward him, her face unreadable. There was no smile, no frown, just the calm of someone who had long since learned to keep her emotions under control. "I am Alex," he said. "I'll be your guide for today." Zaral's voice was melodic, though it carried an almost mechanical precision to it. "I do not require a guide." The words stung, but Alex quickly hid his discomfort behind a practiced smile. "I know, but you'll have to tolerate me anyway." Zaral's expression softened for a moment, though she did not respond. The silence between them was awkward, and Alex found himself wondering if he should say something else, but he couldn't find the words. He wasn't sure if he was interested in her because of her status or if there was something else, something deeper. But he couldn't help it. Her detachment, her complete disinterest in the people around her, made her stand out. It made her seem alone. And then, unexpectedly, Zaral spoke again, her voice cutting through the silence. I, too, have no friends. Alex blinked, his mind struggling to process what she had just said. What? Zaral's gaze moved to the crowd, where humans and Lashari delegates interacted. I have no legs, she said softly, almost to herself. Without legs, one cannot walk with others, cannot join them in their journeys, cannot truly belong. Her words were not angry or sad. They were simply factual. But for some reason, they pierced through Alex's heart like a sharp knife. Here she was, a being from another world, an ambassador of her species, and yet she felt the same loneliness that he had known all his life. I don't have friends either, Alex said, the words slipping out before he could stop them. I mean, I never really fit in. People don't really understand me. Zaral's expression shifted slightly. Was it empathy? Or was it just an acknowledgment of something she too had come to accept about herself? Whatever it was, Alex felt a connection in that moment, one that transcended words or gestures. They spent the rest of the day together, wandering through the cultural exchange exhibitions, where alien artifacts and technologies were on display. They talked about nothing and everything, but the unspoken bond between them grew. For the first time in his life, Alex didn't feel so alone. And for Zaral, the silence she carried for so long began to ease, replaced by something unfamiliar, something like companionship. As the day came to a close, the two of them sat together on a bench, overlooking the city. Zaral floated beside him, her body suspended in midair, while Alex sat awkwardly, his feet planted firmly on the ground. Neither of them spoke, but there was a mutual understanding that needed no words. You know, Alex said finally, sometimes I think that being different makes it harder to find people who understand you. Zaral nodded. Being different can make one feel isolated. But maybe, Alex continued, maybe being different also makes it possible to understand others who feel the same way. Zaral's eyes seemed to shimmer in the fading light. Perhaps. The quiet stretched between them, but it no longer felt heavy. In that moment, Alex realized that they didn't need to be the same to connect. They didn't need to have legs or the same social status. They just needed to understand each other's loneliness and reach out. And when Zaral finally spoke again, it was with a soft, almost imperceptible smile. I think, she said, we are both on the same journey. Alex didn't need to say anything in reply. He simply smiled back, and for the first time in his life, he didn't feel so alone.